Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Jim.
I was thinking about how I'm getting these daily doses of bagpiping goodness from via the Dojo Insider, and it occurred to me, like, what would I do if bagpipes weren't a thing in my life?
Or if bagpipes were never invented.
Yeah, there's a there would be a really big amount of space in my life in terms of time, energy, everything, right? If bagpipes weren't a thing, what would fill those gaps?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And so, if bagpipes never existed, that would be very strange. Well, I got into playing because my my dad, I sort of discovered my dad was a great bagpiper around the age of 7 or so. And he had not played for several years due to I don't know how you would put it in podcast form, but basically like he had a medical procedure on his esophagus. So
Oh,
it was uncomfortable for him to play for a long time. So like when I was born, he wasn't playing. And throughout the
well,
first few years of my childhood, he wasn't playing. And then
how
eventually,
did you discover that? What was that discovery like?
well, my aunt was getting married and she asked my dad to dust off the old pipes and play at the wedding.
Mm.
And he decided he would do it and that he was up for it. And that's when I discovered my dad played the pipes. Dusted them off and got them
Wow,
going in the
really? That's
basement. Yeah.
interesting.
And then it was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I remember he cut back into it a little bit. He joined a local band. And then I remember going to the Highland games a couple times and listening to the bands. And my dad got me a practice chanter. And it took me a while before I really cove into the practice chanter. But yeah, once I did, the rest was history, as they say. But yeah, so what would happen if my dad never got back into piping? You
Yeah.
could be sitting here listening to somebody else, somebody way less obnoxious. So maybe if I never, maybe the world would be a better place. I don't know, but it would certainly be different for me.
So, my fiction aside, when you posed this question to me via chat a couple days ago, a few days ago, whenever it was, yesterday, who knows? I don't know what is time at this point. I don't know.
It's time.
But as I was thinking about it,
That's the next episode of Dojo podcast is
we're
what
gonna
is
get to the bottom of it.
what
Is
is
time?
time? Which, by the
They're
way,
ba-
nobody knows.
yeah, well, but we'll figure it out.
I don't think we will. Yeah, you and we'll figure it out next week. But I stumbled on like a YouTube video just the other day of how no one actually knows what time is. Still,
Mm.
no idea, or if it actually exists. No one knows. We
Yeah,
think we
I
know.
try. I'm late all the time, and I think if I could convince people that time doesn't exist anyway, I think
Yeah,
I'd be in
man.
pretty good shape. That'd be
Yeah,
helpful.
man. Yeah.
But
Nice.
thinking about no bagpipes, either not existing or just not in my life, the things I was thinking about coalesced into four categories for me,
Okay.
which were social interaction. I feel is really important, an important part of my life that bagpipes have provided for most of it. Artistic expression, also a sort of outlet for more intense and focused work.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is a good thing that's important for me. And then media consumption. It's not just the daily dose of of Dojo Insider podcast that's coming to me. It's other podcasts and it's a lot of music, of course.
I agree.
It's also video content and books that I read, like a lot of media consumption. But what do you think about maybe we go from the top of social interactions? Like,
Well, I agree with those. For me, it goes even a couple layers deeper. Like for me, it represents basically how I got my education.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
at
so
SFU, yeah.
so well, and even I ended up at boarding school because I played the
Oh,
pipes, and that was like a great experience that I wouldn't have had, I don't think, if I didn't play the pipes. And then yeah, and then I ended up over at SFU. And then the next thing that comes to mind is seeing the world, right? I've been able to travel a lot and check out cool, interesting new places that I don't know if I would have gone to, and not in the same way, right? Like maybe you
yeah.
travel to Edinburgh just to be a tourist, but kind of hung out in those cities, and that's a cool experience. And then the obvious one for me is it's how I pay the bills. So what would I
Yeah,
do
that's
for a
true.
living? What would I
Mm.
do for a living if I
What
wasn't a
would you
piper?
do, Andrew? I am curious about that. If this wasn't a
Yeah.
thing, are you drawn to accounting or what would you be doing?
Man, I'm certainly drawn to what's easy, aren't I?
Mm.
When I was in college, all the actual classes people took were like really difficult and kind of annoying and required hard work and stuff. So I ended up more or less defaulting to getting a music degree, which is something that already came naturally to me. I think there's an argument for doing those things, like
Mhm.
don't force it, do the things that come naturally to you. So maybe I made the right decision, but there is definitely an element of, whoa, I think I'm out of my league in these other areas.
Mm.
Maybe I should just stick to what I'm good at. And I had done a couple music classes in my first year at SFU, but by the second year, it was like, okay, music major, let's go.
Mm.
And I guess technically I was a fine arts major, but yeah, music major, let's go, because I think that's what's going to fit well for me. So, oh yeah, would I have done that? Or would I have pursued music enough to be in that position to begin with if I wasn't a piper to start with? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But if you had, I'm also imagining, and I don't mean this to in any way take away from what you've built with Piper's Dojo, of course, it's a great program and everything, right? But what if you'd pursued music just the same and got a music degree, but maybe your instrument of choice had been like piano or guitar or something like that? And those are crowded spaces when it
Oh
comes
yeah.
to instruction and performance, etc. And so would you have been able to turn that into a workable career in the way that you did bagpipes?
I don't know.
Let's
Tough one.
imagine yes, right? Let's imagine that you would be so proficient, you'd be fine no matter what you did, huh?
Well, maybe. And I'm good news about playing piano or something is you don't have to be in the piano Glenfiddich every year
Uh,
to develop, let's say, a fan base or to play music so you could just be an excellent piano player. And then I don't know, man. I feel like there's a lot of excellent piano players out there that have not been able to, let's say, convert that into a living or
yeah,
something. So
yeah.
yeah. So the answer to that question is who knows? I do have a funny feeling that in some other universe, I was probably a different kind of musician. I don't know. I feel like I have a musical talent, Jim. Even though
Mm.
I don't know how much of a believer I am in like innate talents or whatever, but yeah, maybe there is something to that.
Well, I was thinking about the social aspect, where obviously I'm sure it's a common experience that for many of us, our best friends are the people whom we see most often end up being the people in our bands that we're in. And we build friendships that way. Maybe especially for people like yourself and me that had like childhood band experiences, right? Where for me, it was part of high school and you went to a boarding school playing pipes as well, right? And those are very formative years. But it also occurred to me that though I know people who have met their romantic partner of many years in pipe band because both members of that partnership were pipers and or drummers.
Yeah, I wouldn't have met my
Um,
wife without bagpipes, that's for sure.
mm. And see, I would have met my wife and she's fine with my bagpiping, but
She's
I
fine
think,
with it, but
yeah, but she's definitely not like a piper or a drummer herself. But many of my in-laws, I think, were pulling for me, were really rooting for me because they like bagpipes. And so it's like there are multiple degrees of effects on my social life
yes.
from bagpipes for sure.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, in order to proceed, we have to decide, do bagpipes not exist at all in the
Mm,
entire history of the universe, or did we just not do it? Did we just not
yeah,
stumble across it?
that's a good point. Because if they didn't exist in the entire universe, is the discussion going to turn into how do we invent them? How do we make them
Or
exist?
would we invent the bagpipe or something?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the answer is I don't know.
Mm.
So let's pretend bagpipes didn't even exist in the history of the universe.
Nobody ever put a bag and a pipe together. This is
Never.
now the
It's just something
universe
that
we're
never
living in.
happened. Something else
Mm.
happened, but not this. So everything else is more or less the same. But it also begs the question, did the advent of the bagpipe play a role in how the world is today in infinite number of ways that you would have no idea?
Yeah. This is the butterfly flapping its wings on the other side of the globe situation, right?
Yes,
Like borders would be different, land masses would be upheaved, like it would
exactly.
just be completely
The
different.
tectonic plates would have moved the other way
Yeah, if it hadn't been for
for
bagpipes.
some reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I do wonder how much of um like is there a consistent line from like a lot of different music stuff today? I'm still thinking in the realm of music, continuous sound, things like that. That goes maybe it's electronic today, maybe it's digital, Does that go back to things like pump organs, like pumping? And would we have ever figured out that was a thing you could do if we hadn't been doing it with our mouths into a bag first? Like, maybe the sound of music today would be really different, and I don't just mean bagpipe music, I mean, like, popular music. Maybe all music would be way different. Maybe it'd be more percussion driven than it is today, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Yeah, so I don't know what we would do. I don't know, and it's the other thing is, like, I'm a super creative person, so I have a funny feeling like, no, I probably would have become an artist no matter what, of some kind, probably. And then I also feel like I probably would have been an entrepreneur no matter what. You know what I
Would you
mean?
be would what if it created a world where Bob Ross had never become a thing, but then you became the Bob Ross?
Like,
Maybe
would I
you
have
were a
become the Bob
painter.
Ross? Yeah.
Right.
Or, but then the other question is it the bagpipe that helped me develop all these things? So would
Mm,
I be way less creative without it? By the way, this is why you should teach your kids music, I think, and or other artistic things, or anything, or sports too. Like these creative endeavors are really important. By the way,
mm,
the school systems are sort of anti-creative, right? So to do the extracurriculars are so important, I think.
yeah.
And by the way, I only mean these things generally, and it's just me spouting ideas. So if you believe the school systems are inherently ultra creative, I meant no offense. But my point is we need to kind of balance these things. And then maybe it's the fact that took an interest in the bagpipes and I was sort of like, successful with it. And I met tons of all the right people in extremely fortuitous order. Like maybe that's why I am ultra creative and entrepreneurial. So maybe I wouldn't
Oh,
have
that's a good
been
point,
without
yeah.
it.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing, isn't it? That it's hard to know what's gonna stick in a person's life, I think, anyway. Where if you had a person who you happened to respect, or that you didn't respect, I don't know, a teacher or a friend or something, who says something like, Andrew, you're really funny. Are you the class clown or something? Does that set the trajectory for the rest of your life that you
Yeah.
internalize this idea, I'm a funny person, and so then you consume more stand-up comedy and you try to write jokes, that kind of thing? Or maybe you do a great job on a book report and you have an instructor or this is all going into school for my mind right now for some reason, right? But maybe maybe your teacher, maybe your parent, maybe a sibling says, "Wow, you're good at science." And that you internalize that and you go, "I am good at science, aren't I? I look at the world in a scientific way," and that
Yeah.
sets the trajectory for your life. It's like what maybe for you, being exposed to bagpipes early, meeting the right people, having good instructors, or multiple somebodies were saying the right things, giving the right feedback that you just kept going. Maybe you would have gone down a different track otherwise.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And also, no one ever told me to stop either,
Hmm.
which I feel like happens to some people, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
Like now that you're going to college, it's probably time to hang up this bagpipe stuff for a while. Like no one ever said that.
Yeah.
Or, well, you're going to have to quit bagpipes for a while now while you go out and get a real job.
Mm.
You hear these things, but it was never something that was kind of pushed. But I think for some people, the thing that they're infatuated with and that they love doing kind of, they sort of get pressured to move away from that instead of towards it as well.
So then I wonder if this is setting us up for something of a crisis. If some of us feel that we are so naturally and truly drawn to the bagpipes, does this then make us pause for a moment and wonder, but why am I? And even the idea that I could be not drawn to them if this set of circumstance had been different, does that cheapen the relationship between me and the pipes? Or does it make it like less meaningful or deep in some way? What do you think? Do I just need to lean into the idea that my environment and I are feeding back and forth off of each other all the time? Or is that less romantic, less exciting, less poetic?
So what's the question again? I lost you there.
I lost it too.
Yeah, man, bagpipes.
uh,
That's my answer because
yeah.
I didn't really follow what you're saying there.
I guess like I feel like a lot of us probably who are into bagpipes feel like it's destiny. Like it was inevitable, right? I was always going to end up here. But what if thinking along this track makes me go, oh, it's just a set of circumstances that by random chance happened to land me here?
Yes. Well, you
There's a
can't
certain
know.
poetry that might be missing from that, maybe.
Yeah, you can't know whether one or the other is true. But again, I don't think it was destiny, right? Because that would imply that you're not in control of the outcome of things, which I wouldn't really like. So yeah, there's probably a long string of coincidences, but also at each coincidence or in each moment, we have a decision of what we're gonna pursue.
What about this,
Hopefully.
Andrew? If bagpipes didn't exist, let's speculate about other people for a minute.
Okay.
What would Stuart Little be doing right now if bagpipes didn't exist in the universe?
Yeah, I don't know. This would be a cool thing to find out. I mean, I think
He's a-
everyone listening should go in the comments and just give us a paragraph about where you think you'd be without bagpipes.
Yeah.
Because that would be
Stuart
fun.
Little's he's a pretty good accordion player. I wonder if he'd be on the international stage with the accordion.
Yes,
in the
well, I
same
mean,
way he is with the bagpipe.
he's a great musician, and I seem to recall he was and maybe still does a little bit of piano tuning, and just super interested in music. And he's also, I remember I've spoken with Stuart that he was interested in becoming an airplane pilot as well at one point. So maybe he just would have done that. I think people have their interests, and then you pursue the interests in probably the interests that stick the best for whatever reason is what you end up doing.
Andrew,
It's sort of sad. I feel bad thinking about a world without Stuart playing bagpipes, though.
Yeah, it's not just without bagpipes, it's without Stuart playing bagpipes.
Mhm.
Yeah. What about take a picture in your head
and
of
then
go ahead.
Jim, wait, there's more. What if Stuart was just the only one that didn't play? How would that have changed my life? And the answer is, he's a guy I've known for a really long time. My life would be way different. It's making me feel kind of sad thinking about this.
Go listen to some Radiohead and like,
Yeah. Did we talk about that at this episode or the last
it'd
episode?
be the last one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, man.
What about the British Highland regiments? If we had to say bagpipes don't exist, how do we pull the bagpipes out of that picture completely?
Yeah.
What are they using instead? Is it fifes and drums? Is it trumpets? Is it harps? Are they marching with harps?
Yeah, and maybe the world wars would not have been won for whatever reason because bagpipes weren't a thing.
You and I might be
strike
sitting
fear into the heart of the enemy.
in like New Germany right now instead of
Could be.
yeah.
Maybe we'd have to play those like those German bagpipes.
Doodle sax. Oh no.
We have to be careful. No, that was just a brief line. We're not passing any judgment on the German doodle sack. Anyone.
We are.
For those listening.
We're just doing our very best to offend every single version of bagpipe playing possible.
Well, Jim, we shouldn't talk about this anymore because this has been a non-serious topic and we knew that going in. But now the question goes out to the audience. What do you think? Where would you be right now if not for bagpipes? Hit us in the comments. Let's just have a little bit of fun with this week and we'll move on to more serious stuff next week.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. There it is. Jim, I'm glad you play bagpipes, man.
And same to you. Same to you, Andrew.
Hey everybody, Andrew Douglas here from the Piper's Dojo, and I just want to say thanks so much for listening to today's iteration of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, it would be super helpful to us and to a lot of bagpipers out there trying to find us. If you could give us a top-notch review on whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast, particularly Apple, iTunes, and Spotify and things like that, your review would be really, really helpful. So if you have a moment today, definitely go over there and help us out. Other than that, until we meet again on the podcast or somewhere else, thanks again for listening.